Hi everyone, thanks for joining in. I'm excited to have Nina Kenwood joining me today. Hi Nina.
Hi, thanks for having me.
So, just a bit about Nina. Nina's an award winning author living in Melbourne, and her debut YA novel, It Sounded Better in My Head, won the Text Prize and was finalist for the American Library Association's William C. Morris Award, a CBCA notable book, as well as being shortlisted for the New South Wales Premier's Literary Awards, the Queensland Literary Awards, the Russell Prize for
Working
Humour
just
Writing and the Indie Book Awards and the Australian Book Industry Awards. So lots of accolades there. It Sounded Better in My Head has been published in 6 languages and optioned for film. And her latest book is Unnecessary Drama. Got my copy there. Hopefully, everyone can see that. And also, just wanted to let people know that thanks to Text Publishing, if you ask a question during the Facebook Live, you'll have a chance to win your own copy of Nina's book. So, thanks, Nina, for joining us. Do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about Unnecessary Drama?
yeah, it's a rom-com set in a share house during first year uni. It's about Brooke, who is a very type A, slightly neurotic 18-year-old girl who likes rules and likes everything a certain way. And she's moving into a share house with what she thinks is two strangers. But then she finds out that one of her new housemates is Jessie, her friend turned nemesis from high school. And they start out, yes, sort of in a place as enemies, and then they grow to become friends, and it's also a slow burn sort of love story, as well as the coming of age and that
Yeah.
first moving out of home and starting uni and all of those sort of
Mm. Mm.
moments.
And I'm wondering, like when I was reading it, I was wondering, is this something that you may have had some experience of yourself or had friends in similar situations?
Definitely drawn a little bit from life. I moved
Mm,
from a small town to Melbourne to go to uni. So there's definitely some elements, and I've been in share houses, I've collected some share house stories from friends over the years. So it's sort of combining all of that but it is a fictional story.
yeah,
Brooke is.
yeah. And I really loved the characters. I know a lot of people ask, did you use some traits of people you knew or some of your own traits in some of them?
A little bit, I guess. Once I sort of get into a character's head, um, they become alive to me.
Mm,
They're their own person, and I don't ever base my characters on anyone directly. And yeah,
mm,
once I've figured out who they are, they become like real people, sort of to me. And so it's like, no, Brooke is Brooke.
mm.
She's not based on anyone else. She's Brooke, and Jessie is Jessie. So yeah, well, it's about finding the character enough for them to come alive for me.
Yeah, yeah. And what sort of research did you end up doing for unnecessary drama?
Zero. It's more about, for me and my sort of writing, it's about finding the character's voice. So I spend a lot of time, I have what I call a draft zero, where I just write like, 60,000 words, where I'm just writing in Brooke's voice and trying to find out that um, that character and find the voice and find the
Hmm.
rhythms and find her sort of internal monologue and get that going, because I write in a very kind of, all right, first person, um, present tense point of view. So it's very much about the voice of the character.
Yeah, yeah. So, like, I can understand already that characters are really, really important to you. Um, do you find the characters stay with you after you've finished?
Yeah, yeah, they do. I sort of
Mm,
think fondly of them, but it's also, you have to, once you've published a book, you really have to let it go and
yeah.
let it kind of, you have to a little bit emotionally disconnect from it and let
Mm,
readers have their own feelings about it, and
mm,
not, so you've kind of, it's that that desire to keep them as special characters in your heart, but also let them go into the world and let people have their own feelings about them.
Yeah, yeah. And we've got a few people watching, so just wanted to remind people again, if you're watching, please type in any questions you have for Nina, and you'll have your chance to win your own copy of Unnecessary Drama, thanks to Text Publishing. I do have some questions from people. Sharon wonders how long it took you to write the book.
It took me, well, it was my second book. And so it was a bit different to my first book, which I just wrote, in my own time. No one cared. This one, I had a deadline, I had a contract, and I started writing it at the beginning of 2020. And then the pandemic and COVID hit, and that sort of brought everything to a screeching halt because, that I wasn't in the right headspace, and as everyone else was, I was grappling with, do we put COVID in our books? How is it going to impact the world? How is it going to change the experience of going to uni? All of that. So that was really hard to kind of deal with, as well as, that was a scary sort of time. It took me about 2 years, but there was a lot of throughout 2020 and 2021, but most of 2020 was really stopping and starting and grappling with what was happening in the world and how to figure that out. And then once I made some decisions, it was actually sort of written towards the end of 2020 into 2021.
And Sharon wonders if you're working on your next book, and if so, if you can tell us anything about it.
My next book is an adult rom-com, and that's all I can really say at this time, because it's in a messy draft where I'm sort of still figuring out exactly what it's about, and I'm a very long way away from being able to speak about it in any coherent
way. And Kim wonders if you found, or did you have anything that challenged you when you wrote the book?
Yes, well, the big challenge was COVID was happening, and that really, it just, I was just frozen creatively by that. And I had my first child in 2019, so I had a baby in 2020, and that was also a challenge. And those two things combined were very challenging in different ways, and so it was a very different experience writing, my second book to my first. So those were the big challenges.
So
that whole sorry, go on. I was just going to say, and it's called second book syndrome, where you sort of, the pressure to write the second book, to either like live up to the first one or to make it better, or whatever you're emotionally dealing with about your first book, you're carrying it into the second, and sort of to let that go. So there were a lot of hurdles.
And sounds like you lead a very busy life, and like with COVID and that, you had a lot of things going on, like everyone did. How did you go about your writing day? Did you set aside some time or set some goals for yourself?
I did. I have a writing group, and that's like the most useful. That has been the number one most useful thing to me, to have two other people who are also writing books, and we set goals for ourselves. We check in, we hold each other accountable. We have a spreadsheet where we'll, do like challenges, and we have to write so many words a day and those kind of things. And it is so helpful for me. It's not even about reading each other's work. It's just about having someone there who is also trying to do the same thing you are, also having challenges, and you can cheerlead each other on, you can commiserate, or everything. So that's been my sort of my number one thing that has kept me going.
Yeah, sounds great. And could you tell us a little bit about how you actually got that first book published, and maybe when you decided that that's what you did want to do, that you did want to get a book published?
I'd always wanted to be a writer. I think most writers say that, like from, from the time you're a bookish kid growing up, you're always dreaming of being a writer, but I only got sort of serious about it later into my adulthood. Like, I was always writing, but I was actually trying to write a very sort of serious, dark, depressing adult novel, and it wasn't working. And then one day I woke up with this idea, this voice in my head, this idea that I wanted to write a funny YA rom-com, and with like a really sort of strong voice of a character. And so that's my main character in my first book was called Natalie. And so I just started writing in her voice, and it really flowed, and it was actually so much fun. And so I sort of went, okay, I need to put this dark, serious project aside and lean into writing sort of funny and coming of age and romance and all these things that I was enjoying writing. And so then I decided I wanted to enter the Text Prize, which is a really good prize for unpublished manuscripts for children and YA. And I entered it with sort of no expectation of it going anywhere. And then I was shortlisted and I won, and it was wonderful and life-changing. And I highly recommend the Text Prize, but there's a whole range of prizes around Australia that you can enter as an unpublished writer. And they're all fantastic.
And I'm sure you've had a lot of feedback from readers. Is there anything you could share with us that maybe touched you or you were surprised about?
Well, in my first book, the main character struggles with having bad skin, bad acne, and that is something that I hear from a lot of readers about. Just saying that there aren't a lot of books which take seriously sort of the trauma of having really bad skin. And so a lot of people I do hear from a lot of people about that aspect. With unnecessary drama, I've heard a lot of people talking about, so Brooke is a very anxious character. She has a lot of anxiety. And I've heard from a lot of people just about saying they feel really seen with Brooke's anxiety, or they really relate to her. That's sort of the comment that comes up the most with people who like my books is they find the characters relatable. They feel seen in some way, which is really nice to hear.
Yeah. And Kim wonders what you enjoy most about being an author.
To be honest, I just really love writing. I know there are some writers who say like they love having written, but they don't enjoy the process so much. But I really do love the process, and it's such a privilege to get to write and make up worlds and make up characters and have people read your work. And I know how much books have meant to me. So to be part of that cycle, to maybe write a book that means something to someone else is really special.
And what do you like reading yourself? And is there something you might have read lately you want to recommend to us?
I read pretty widely: memoir, adult literary fiction, YA, rom-coms, romance, a lot of picture books to my daughter. So a YA that I loved from recent times was The Museum of Broken Things by Lauren Draper. That's just a really beautiful Australian YA. It's set in a small town. It's got romance, it's got mystery, it's got friendship, it's got all kinds of, everything you want in a good YA. I'm also reading this book at the moment, which is a new adult fiction release out at the moment called I Have Some Questions For You by Rebecca Mackay. It's part boarding school story, part murder mystery. It's just, I'm enjoying it so much. It's really juicy, and I love a book set in a boarding school.
Why is that?
I don't know. I just love that genre of books. There's something about like the elite boarding school and things going on, and secrets, and there's always, the scholarship student who's the outsider, and all of those tropes I love.
Yeah. And what about growing up? What sort of books did you like reading then?
I read a lot of, when I was really young, I was obsessed with the Saddle Club and the Babysitters Club.
Yeah.
those two series were what shaped me as like a child reader. I loved them. And then I read a lot of YA when I was a teenager. John Marston and the Tomorrow When the War Began series, Miss Got Carmody, Looking for Ella Brandy by Melina Machetta. They were all sort of the books that were big in my teen years, and they were really special to me.
And do you, what do you hope readers will love about your books?
I hope that they will. I like to think that I write the kind of books, or I hope to write the kind of books that you read with a smile on your face, or that make you feel good, or that by the end you feel like it's kind of like a warm hug of a book. And so that's what I hope people will take away. That they just feel good, feel better about the world, feel like they've just had an enjoyable experience reading.
And when you're writing, do you have a favourite place to write, or maybe also a favourite snack while you're writing?
I write at my desk. I went through a phase where I was obsessed with chewing gum while I was writing, and then I had to stop that because I was getting a sore jaw. So, but I try not to snack so much. But yeah, it was. It's the chewing gum was my big. Even now, when I get a creative block, I can break it with either a walk or some chewing gum.
And is there something that you found the most difficult part of the writing process?
I think it's probably. I mean, one part is finding the time and to, especially when you're a parent or you've got a lot going on, or maybe you've got a demanding job or whatever else. Finding the time and just committing to the writing and getting in the headspace and getting the words down is the big challenge, I think, for a lot. And finishing, if you can finish a manuscript, you're ahead of 90% of people who are attempting it.
And Kim wonders how you feel about the editing process.
I love it, actually. It's really, when you have a good editor, and I have a great editor, it's exciting to sit down with someone who is reading your work so closely and thinking about the characters as seriously as you are, and breaking down the book. It's the only time where you really get this one-on-one time of someone really breaking down the book and figuring out how you can make it better together. I mean, it can be intimidating at first because it's like, this isn't working, fix this, and it can be a bit scary, but it's exciting.
And Kelly wonders if you've had a favourite review of your book.
I've had so many that I've loved, actually. I keep a little a section in my email where if I see a great review or someone writes something nice, I store it away in like a folder called Nice Things so that I can go back and read it when I'm feeling low as a writer. But yeah, anyone, even average reviews on Goodreads, I think, if someone's taking the time to read the book and write about it, I appreciate that.
And have you got any events or festivals or anything that you've got coming up that you...
Yes, I'll be at Clunes Writers Festival in Clunes this coming weekend, and I'll be at the Sydney Writers Festival in May.
Okay, that's great. Well, thanks so much for joining us. Do you want to share with people how they can keep up to date with where you're at?
I am on Twitter and Instagram. I'm not very active, but if there's any big news, it will be there. And that's both under, my handle is just Nina Kenwood.
Okay, well, thanks so much. Thanks for joining us. And thank you for the people who asked questions.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you. Bye, everyone.